A pattern interrupt can be explained as any word, sound or behavior that is unexpected for the brain. The goal of that is to create enough confusion to trigger an entirely new sequence of events, or to lead the current sequence of events in a new direction. Now, there are three main ways this process can be applied and utilized. The first one is during your everyday life. You have moments where you do things automatically. When you go into the bathroom in the morning, you don't have to think about what you will have to do there. It is automatic. When you have a conversation, it is also automated. The social norms many times have been learned, repeated and automated through years and years and years of implicit conditioning, and some unwanted behaviors too. You may criticize yourself in moments where you should not. You may visualize very frightening and worrying things from the future that have no value in the present, but you still visualize them without even knowing why. And you may get into conflicts sometime with some people that is just making your life more lonely. The idea with those implicit, intrinsic chains of unwanted events is to calm yourself down and notice in which specific sequence is this happening. Whenever you have a conflict with that same person again and again, it might be interesting to figure out what is leading to that conflict inside your head. When you think about it, when you get back to the moment, what was the chain of internal representations or words being said or feelings being expressed? What was the chain of events or internal representations that led to the conflict? Same thing if you have a negative behavior with cigarettes, with eating too much of the wrong food. What is the chain, the sequence of things that happen inside your head or inside your body that make you consume the wrong type of substance? And notice how you could break the chain. For example, when I was competing in Thai boxing long ago, I had to lose weight really fast, like any athlete knows. In those sports you have to lose weight in a short amount of time. And during the period where I really had to drop down in weight, I was catching myself every time I was tempted to go eat this type of food or that type of food. And the most difficult ones were when I was at home alone and not having much to do. Because boredom actually is the worst nightmare for weight loss, much more than social activities and stuff like that. Socially, I could distract my head, so I could avoid consuming the wrong things. But when I was alone, more difficult. So I noticed, since it was always starting with a looking at the kitchen or the place into which there was this juicy food, and then walking up to there and visualizing in my head what this food looked like, I broke that chain of events. And every time I was looking at the kitchen, which was the initial trigger or the place where this one could happen, I was standing up, because most of the time I was just sitting down. I would stand up, slap my body slightly and just do no. So it was a clear physical, auditory, external, standing up, slapping the body, no. And then I would easily go back to anything else I was doing. I was interrupting the unconscious chain of events leading to me consuming the wrong food. The second type of pattern interrupt is anything physical, but by physical we mean in a conversation, when you have to interrupt the trail of thoughts or the negative discussion somehow with potentially annoying people you might be discussing with, and to use the space, to use your body in a way that will just allow you to better lead the interaction instead of being led by them. A very classical example that many people know to this day is the handshake interrupt. You are physically stepping up into the personal space of the person by giving your hand, and at the last time you remove your hand, which is an interruption because it is interrupting the natural sequence of physical events that are supposed to happen there. Another example, one day I saw a speaker in some lecture, and there was a really annoying person seated in the front row who kept counter-arguing or who kept commenting very loudly all the things the speaker was saying. However, he was not commenting to the speaker, he was commenting to his buddies on the side. Like, oh yeah, I heard about, oh yeah, I know that, what he's talking about, yeah, I heard that, I learned that 10 years ago, oh, yeah, the kind of bragging person. And what the speaker did, it was some NLP lecture, by the way, so the speaker was knowledgeable about this. He didn't call out to that person, because somebody who is always bragging is usually somebody who has a very weak and wounded ego, so he needs or she needs the validation by constantly bragging. So somebody like this, if you confront them, it will just escalate in many cases. Instead of that, he positioned himself just close to the guy, not like stick to his face, but like really closer to his personal space, and he started to speak really louder every time he was enumerating a new fact, and he increased the volume of his voice. So the nonverbal played a part, and at some point the guy just stopped talking. So he interrupted by changing the physical location, playing with the physical space, and it is also something comedians and stage artists of many kind are trained to do in some artistic schools or just through mere experience, that the way you use the space on stage will say a lot about the character you're supposed to play. And finally, we have my favorite, the conversational pattern interrupts, which are much more subtle in many cases. They are not anything attempting to devalue somebody or like lower their self-esteem. It is just to create a shock, to make them listen more carefully, and from there you can have a more thoughtful, more interesting conversation where you bring them back with you here and now, and not inside their head commenting on everything you say. Bringing them back here and now, and that can be done through many different techniques. I had this video on confusion language patterns that can be of great use for that. It will be about any sort of phrase that is highly unexpected for the person listening to you. And as a great philosophy to how to explain that concept, we can go back to the yin-yang strategy, or what is known in martial arts. Whenever you want to hit a hard surface, you have to hit with a soft part of your body. And if you hit a soft surface like the belly, you have to hit with a hard surface from your body. Because if you hit something hard with a soft surface like this, on the skull for example, you won't break, or very seldom, whereas the person might get injured. On the opposite, if you try to hit with a hard surface on a hard surface, you may get injured. But a soft against a hard, good point. And if you try to hit soft against another soft surface, not much will happen either. But if you hit with a hard surface like the fist like this into the belly, which is much softer, that will create more damage. So it is into a combat perspective into martial arts. You don't need to get that far if it is just a conversation, but it is to express that whenever you say the one thing that is being unexpected from the brain, by the brain of your interlocutor, you have a chance of creating a whole new chain of representations inside their brain. You might re-encode somehow what they think of you, what they think of themselves if it is a coaching session, and how do they view themselves. That was a brief introduction, and if you want to learn more about this, you can find the other pattern interrupt videos I have on my channel, and you can download down below. There is a document on sleight of mouth which is incorporating a few techniques that can be used for a pattern interrupt, and that will help you to reframe any difficult or undesired conversation, and also help people who have trouble getting out of some mental mess and helping them get better in their lives.